The alien world was quiet for a moment, but the calm did not last. The palace of the alien queen, a tall and shining structure of crystal and metal, shivered under the sound of distant explosions. Outside, the air was filled with strange lights and the hum of hovering ships. Inside, the queen's guards rushed through the corridors, their expressions filled with fear. The alien queen herself stood in the center of her chamber, her eyes wide with shock. She had faced danger before, but nothing like this. A group of unknown attackers had broken through the palace's defenses. Their weapons glowed with colors the queen had never seen, and their movements were fast, precise, and deadly. The guards tried to stop them, but they were outnumbered. Each second that passed brought the queen closer to danger. Her heart raced, and for the first time in her long life, she felt truly afraid. Suddenly, a human appeared. He did not belong to their world. His uniform was simple, made for comfort and movement, not for style. His eyes were sharp, scanning the room, calculating every move. In that moment, it seemed as if time slowed. The attackers turned toward him, but he moved with skill that surprised everyone. Each step was calm but confident. He dodged blasts of light, and with careful precision, he disarmed several attackers. The alien queen watched from her throne, her mouth slightly open. She had heard stories about humans before, but no one had ever seen one up close, especially not one who could fight so calmly in the middle of chaos. Her mind raced. Who was this human? Why had he come to her world? Yet before she could ask, he was already moving toward her. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady and clear, "stay behind me. I will keep you safe." His words were simple, but they carried a weight of certainty. The queen felt a strange sense of trust. She did not know him, yet something about his presence made her believe in his promise. She nodded slowly, and he took her hand, guiding her behind a large crystal pillar as another group of attackers entered the hall. The human moved like he had rehearsed every possible move. He threw small devices that created blinding flashes of light, giving the queen moments of safety. He used tools she had never seen, gadgets that immobilized attackers without harming them seriously. The queen could not take her eyes off him. There was a calmness in his actions that felt impossible, almost magical, though she knew it was simply human skill and courage. One of the attackers lunged toward the queen from the side. The human reacted immediately, catching the alien's wrist and twisting it with a force that did not hurt her but sent the attacker flying across the room. The queen gasped, amazed at his speed. She realized that she had never felt so safe, even when surrounded by her most loyal guards. Minutes passed like hours. The human did not stop. He moved quickly, carefully protecting the queen while neutralizing each threat. The guards tried to follow him, but they were clumsy compared to his precise movements. It was as if he could see the future, predicting each strike before it happened. The queen's fear slowly turned into awe. Finally, they reached the central chamber where the largest group of attackers waited. The human stood in front of the queen, facing them with calm eyes. The attackers advanced, but he did not move hastily. He waited for the right moment, then acted. One by one, the attackers fell back, surprised by his skill and strategy. Some tried to escape, but the human was faster. By the time the queen's guards regrouped, the attackers had either been captured or fled the palace entirely. The room was silent again. Smoke rose from the corners where small blasts had hit the walls. The queen looked at the human. Her hands shook slightly, and for the first time she spoke in a voice filled with both relief and curiosity. "Who are you?" she asked. The human straightened, looking around the room to make sure no danger remained. Then he met her gaze. "I am a human soldier," he said simply. "I came because your life was in danger." I could not ignore it. The queen studied him carefully. There was no arrogance, no desire for reward in his voice. Only honesty, only courage. Her mind struggled to understand this creature. So different from any alien she had known, yet so noble and strong. She had faced wars, betrayals, and countless threats, but never anyone like him. "You saved me," she said softly. I owe you my life." The human shook his head slightly. "You do not owe me anything, Your Majesty. I acted because it was right, because no life should be taken unjustly." Her heart skipped a beat. His words were so simple, yet they carried power and wisdom. She had heard many speeches, many promises, but nothing had ever felt as real as this moment. For the first time, she realized that humans might possess a strength beyond physical skill. The strength of courage, honor, and moral clarity. After a moment, The Queen's advisors entered, rushing to assess the damage. They looked at the human with suspicion, unsure what to make of him. The Queen raised her hand. "He is my guest. He saved my life. That is enough." The advisors hesitated but obeyed. The Queen turned back to the human. "I do not know your world nor your ways, but today you have shown me a bravery and wisdom that no alien could match. I will remember this always." The human nodded, his expression unreadable. "I will do my best to ensure your safety always," he said. For a long moment they simply looked at each other. Two beings from different worlds, separated by countless light years, yet connected by a moment that could not be erased. The Queen's heart felt a strange warmth, a mixture of respect, gratitude, and something she could not yet name. Outside the palace, the sounds of conflict faded. The attackers had retreated, leaving the Queen and her human protector in a rare silence. The Queen realized that her life had changed in a single day. She had witnessed courage unlike any she had known, and she had met a human who would remain in her memory forever. As the sun, or what passed for the sun on this alien world, set behind the palace towers, the Queen quietly whispered to herself, "I will never forget you." And somewhere, deep in the human's eyes, there was a quiet understanding. Today was only the beginning. After the danger had passed, the palace returned to its normal rhythm, though the Queen could not shake the memory of the human who had saved her. His calm voice, his steady hands, and the courage that seemed impossible lingered in her mind. Every corridor she walked felt emptier without his presence. Though the palace buzzed with advisors and servants, she felt a strange loneliness. The human had been with her for only a brief time, yet he had left an impression that no one else could. The days that followed were filled with ceremonies and meetings to honor the Queen's survival. Delegates from distant planets arrived to congratulate her, offering gifts, words, and loyalty. The Queen received them all with grace, yet her thoughts often drifted to the human soldier. She remembered the small details, the way he moved, the slight furrow of his brow when calculating each step, the quiet confidence in his eyes. For a week the human stayed at the palace, assisting in rebuilding damaged areas and training some of the guards to move more efficiently. The Queen observed him closely, learning from his discipline and strategy. Though she could not speak his language perfectly, she understood more from his actions than any words could convey. One evening, after the sun had dipped below the horizon and the palace lights glimmered like stars, the human approached her quietly. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice softer than usual, "there is something I must do. It is important. I cannot explain everything, but it must be done." The Queen looked at him, puzzled. "What is it?" she asked, though a sense of unease crept into her chest. He hesitated. "There is danger beyond these walls. I need to ensure your world remains safe. I will return, but I cannot say when." The Queen felt a sudden tension in her heart. She wanted to stop him, to insist that he stay, but she also understood that he had responsibilities she could not comprehend. She nodded slowly, a mixture of pride and worry filling her chest. "Go," she said. "I trust you." The human gave a small bow, then left the palace silently. Days turned into weeks, and the Queen's mind constantly returned to him. She waited for news, any sign of his return, but nothing came. Messages were sent through the fastest communication networks available, but there was no reply. Each unanswered message tightened a knot of worry in her chest. The Queen tried to focus on her duties, but her thoughts were often interrupted by visions of the human. She remembered how he had saved her life, how he had stood between her and certain danger, and how he had spoken with calm authority even when all seemed lost. Those memories were vivid, almost like they were happening again. Advisors began to notice her distraction. "Your Majesty, are you well?" they asked during meetings. She forced a smile and nodded. "Yes, all is well. Continue with the preparations." Yet inside she felt a growing emptiness. The human's disappearance left a space that no one could fill. One night she visited the balcony of her private chambers, looking out over the city of towers and lights below. The wind brushed against her face, carrying the soft hum of distant ships. She whispered to herself, almost as if speaking into the void could reach him, "Where are you? Are you safe?" Her voice trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. In the following months, the Queen grew restless. She began to review the palace records, hoping to find any clue of his whereabouts. She checked the travel logs, security feeds, and mission reports. Every path he could have taken seemed to vanish into thin air. It was as if he had disappeared completely, leaving only the memory of his courage and kindness. The Queen's dreams were restless. She often dreamed of him, replaying the moment he had saved her life. In her dreams, the world around them shifted. One moment they were in the palace, the next in strange lands she could not name. He was always there, calm and confident, guiding her through dangers she could not understand. She would wake in the middle of the night, her heart racing, reaching for him though he was not there. During this time, her decisions as a ruler began to change subtly. She acted with more caution but also more courage. She listened carefully to her advisors, but she was no longer afraid to make independent choices. The lessons she had learned from the human, trust, calmness, and careful planning guided her. She noticed that her people looked to her with more respect, sensing the quiet strength she had gained. Despite her growing strength, the absence of the human weighed heavily on her. 5 years passed, yet she did not forget him. The Queen often walked through the palace halls he had once moved through, imagining his presence. She sometimes saw glimpses of him in her mind, the determined set of his jaw, the careful movements of his hands, the steady way he met every challenge. On the 5th anniversary of the day he had saved her, the Queen held a private ceremony in her chambers. She placed a small crystal on a pedestal, a token to remember him by. It was not much, but it symbolized her gratitude and the bond that could not be broken by distance or time. She whispered softly, "I will remember you always. You changed my life, and I will never forget." Even as she spoke, the Queen knew that his disappearance was not the end. Somewhere, in a galaxy she could not see, the human continued his mission, carrying the same courage and honor he had shown her. She held on to hope, though she did not know when or if she would see him again. The Queen's reflection in the crystal reminded her of a truth she had come to understand. Bravery and kindness leave marks that time cannot erase. Though he was gone, his influence remained. Her leadership, her choices, and even her quiet moments were touched by his presence. She was stronger, wiser, and more determined because of him. As the night deepened, the Queen stood by the window, gazing at the stars above. Somewhere out there, a human soldier moved through the universe, unaware of the quiet ways he had changed an alien world forever. And somewhere in her heart, the Queen promised to keep his memory alive, for he had saved more than her life. He had inspired her soul. Though the human had disappeared without a trace, his courage lived on. The alien Queen still remembered, and that memory shaped every day that followed. The bond they had formed in the chaos of danger could not be broken, even by years of silence, and in her dreams and thoughts he was never truly gone. 5 years had passed since the human soldier had disappeared, yet the alien Queen's memory of him had not faded. Each day, she woke with thoughts of his courage, his calm voice, and the way he had moved with certainty during the palace attack. Her mind returned to that day again and again, as if replaying a treasured memory. The more time passed, the more she realized how deeply he had influenced her life, shaping not only her heart, but also the way she ruled her people. Her palace, once filled with constant activity and the noise of advisors and attendants, now felt different. Though the corridors bustled with servants and guards, there was a quiet emptiness she could not explain. When she walked through the halls, she imagined his presence beside her, guiding her silently through decisions, teaching her without words. Even the smallest gestures, how he had held himself, how he had reacted calmly in danger, had left an indelible mark on her mind. The Queen found herself drawing on his memory more than ever. She began to make choices she would not have considered before. During council meetings, she listened carefully to her advisors, weighing their opinions, but she trusted her instincts more than she had in the past. She would remember the human's courage and decisiveness, imagining what he might do in her place, and her decisions became sharper, fairer, and more confident. In private moments, she often went to the balcony of her chambers, looking out over the alien city with its towers of crystal and metal, lit by strange glowing lights. The wind brushed her face gently, and she whispered to herself, "Where are you now? Are you safe? Do you remember this world, as I remember you?" Her voice trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. She missed him deeply, though she did not fully understand why. It was not only the loss of his presence, but the absence of someone who had changed her life so profoundly. Sometimes the queen would see small things that reminded her of him. A device left in the palace corridors, a faint mark on a wall, a pattern in the stars above. All of them made her pause. Her advisors dismissed these moments as coincidence or imagination, but she knew better. Her memory of him was sharp and clear, and these small signs, real or imagined, felt like messages meant only for her. They were reminders that he had existed in her world, and that the impact of his courage and kindness was still alive. The queen's dreams were filled with him as well. She often dreamt of the day he had saved her, but the scenes shifted in strange ways. In her dreams, they walked together through strange lands she had never visited, facing dangers she could not name. He was always calm and confident, guiding her, protecting her, and teaching her to trust in her own strength. She woke from these dreams with her heart racing, reaching for him though he was not there. The dreams left her with a mixture of hope and sadness, a reminder that he had touched her life in a way no one else could. Over time, the queen realized that her connection to the human soldier had changed her fundamentally. She acted with more courage, more patience, and more determination. She no longer feared making decisions alone, and she began to lead her people with a quiet strength that surprised even her closest advisors. They noticed the change but could not understand its source. What they saw as a natural growth in leadership was in reality the human's memory guiding her choices, teaching her indirectly through the example he had set. Even her private interactions changed. She treated her advisors and attendants with more fairness and understanding, listening to their concerns and valuing their opinions. She handled disputes between neighboring worlds with a careful balance of strength and diplomacy. Every time she faced a difficult choice, she remembered the human's calm courage during the attack on the palace. She imagined his eyes, steady and confident, and asked herself what he would do in her place. The memory became a compass, guiding her through challenges both small and great. Yet despite all the ways his memory strengthened her, the queen felt a deep, unshakable longing. She had never known someone who could disappear from her life and still influence her so strongly. She could not forget the human soldier, and she knew that she never would. Even as she carried out her duties and led her people with wisdom, there was a space in her heart reserved only for him. One day, while reviewing reports about distant worlds and incoming messages, the queen noticed a strange signal. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, hidden among the usual data streams. Something about it caught her attention, a pattern in the signal that reminded her of the human. She paused, examining it closely. Her advisors watched her curiously. "Your Majesty?" one of them asked. She shook her head slightly. "Nothing, just reviewing information." But in her mind, she could not ignore the feeling that the signal was connected to him. It was a small glimmer of hope in the long years of silence. She could not prove it, and she did not dare speak of it aloud. Yet the signal, however faint, reminded her that he might still exist somewhere, carrying on his mission, perhaps unaware of the deep mark he had left on her world and on her heart. The queen began to pay closer attention to small details around the palace. She noticed messages in hidden codes, symbols in the construction of certain rooms, and faint traces in reports from distant worlds. Sometimes, she imagined that these were signs he had left intentionally, though she could not be certain. The hope these signs gave her was fragile but real. It reminded her that even in absence, he could still influence her life, if only indirectly. 5 years after the attack, the alien queen had grown stronger, wiser, and more resolute. Her leadership reflected the lessons she had learned from him, and her people respected her more than ever. Yet in the quiet moments when the palace was still and the stars shone above, her thoughts returned to him. She remembered his calm eyes, his steady hands, and the bravery that had saved her life. She remembered how he had spoken simply but with meaning, and how his actions had changed everything for her. Though he was gone, his memory remained. The queen understood now that the human soldier had given her more than safety. He had given her inspiration, courage, and a vision of what could be possible. She had learned from him in ways she had never imagined, and she carried those lessons forward in every choice, every decision, and every quiet moment. As she gazed at the stars that night, the Queen whispered softly, "I still remember you. I will always remember you. Your courage, your kindness, your strength, they are with me, always." And even though she could not see him, she felt his presence guiding her silently, shaping her world in ways that could never be undone. In that quiet understanding, the alien queen realized something important. Even absence could not erase the impact of true bravery and true kindness. The human soldier might have disappeared, but the memory of his actions lived on, strong and unwavering, in her heart and in the decisions she made every day. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself a small, quiet smile, knowing that she was not alone because he was always with her in memory and in spirit. Years had passed since the human soldier had disappeared, but the alien queen never stopped thinking about him. His memory was alive in her mind every day, shaping the way she moved, spoke, and led her people. Yet now, after 5 long years, something unusual began to happen. Small, strange signs started appearing, subtle hints that perhaps he had not vanished completely. It began with a symbol. One morning, while reviewing ancient palace records, she noticed a pattern she had never seen before. It was a simple mark, faintly etched into the corner of an old document. At first, she thought it was a coincidence, but something about the shape felt familiar, as if it belonged to the human. Her heart raced. Could he have left this deliberately, knowing she might one day notice? The queen did not speak of it immediately. She knew her advisors would dismiss her concerns as imagination. Instead, she studied the symbol in secret, comparing it to other patterns she had observed over the years. Slowly, more signs began to appear. A small device left in a rarely used corridor, a code in a distant report, subtle messages hidden in the palace communication system. None were overt. All were small, quiet hints. But to the queen, each one felt personal, almost like a message meant only for her. Her curiosity grew. She began to dedicate part of her days to investigating these signs. She studied records from nearby planets, examining travel logs, communications, and mission reports. She sent trusted aides to observe places she could not visit personally. Each discovery, no matter how small, fueled her hope. It was as if the human was reaching out across the stars, leaving breadcrumbs for her to follow. Even her dreams reflected this change. Nights that had once been filled with memories of his courage now included visions of him moving through strange, distant worlds. Sometimes he appeared in places she had never seen, guiding others, facing dangers she could not name. Though these were only dreams, they left her with a sense of purpose and a growing belief that he was still alive somewhere. The queen shared none of this with anyone. Her advisors would have dismissed it as obsession, but she felt certain that the signs were real. She did not know how he had survived or where he might be, but the faint clues were enough to ignite determination in her heart. She resolved to act carefully, using her influence and knowledge to uncover the truth. One afternoon, she summoned her most trusted aides to a private chamber. "I have observed something unusual," she said, her voice steady but tinged with hope. "There are patterns in our records, small signals that suggest someone may still be active, someone who was once here. I believe it may be him, the human soldier who saved my life." The aides exchanged cautious glances. "Your Majesty, after so many years, perhaps it is only coincidence," one of them said gently. The queen shook her head firmly. "No, I know what I saw, what I felt. These signs are deliberate. I will investigate quietly and carefully. I cannot ignore this possibility." Over the following weeks, she created a small, discreet team to assist her. They examined every corner of the palace, every distant report, and every message from the stars. The work was slow, requiring patience and attention to detail, but the queen remained focused. She remembered the human's calm, methodical approach during the attack on her life, and she applied those same principles now. Every clue was important, every pattern significant. During this time, the queen's leadership grew even stronger. Her people noticed subtle changes in her demeanor. She was decisive yet patient, firm yet compassionate. She seemed to see possibilities that others could not, balancing risk with careful strategy. The human's influence continued to guide her, not through presence but through memory and example. One evening, while reviewing a series of distant communications, the queen noticed something extraordinary. A pattern appeared in a series of signals, almost like a trail. The signals were faint, easily overlooked by anyone else, but she recognized the logic. It reminded her of the human's methodical way of planning, the calm precision that had saved her life. Her heart leapt. Could this be a direct sign from him? The Queen did not act hastily. She knew the importance of patience and observation. She instructed her aides to monitor the signals carefully, tracing them through channels that stretched across galaxies. Each day brought new information, small but consistent. The trail seemed to move as if the human were following a careful path, leaving hints behind without revealing himself fully. Her hope grew into determination. She realized that if he was truly alive, he might need her guidance, her protection, or her leadership in ways she could not yet understand. She could not rest while there was even the smallest chance that he was out there, alone, continuing his mission. The Queen's nights became filled with planning. She mapped possible paths, considered potential allies, and prepared contingencies for every outcome. Though her advisors still saw her as focused and wise, none knew the full depth of her concern. In private, she often returned to the small crystal she had set aside to remember him. She held it in her hands and whispered softly, "If you are out there, I will find you. I will follow the signs you leave, no matter how faint." The crystal seemed to glow faintly in the light of the room, as if responding to her hope and determination. The Queen's bond with the human soldier had grown stronger than ever, even without his presence. The memories of his courage, his calm, and his unwavering dedication guided her every step. Now the possibility that he might still be alive added a new dimension, a mission of hope and reunion. She understood that their connection had never been just about survival. It was about trust, loyalty, and the quiet strength that could inspire actions across worlds. As the night deepened, the Queen stood by her window, gazing at the stars. The city below shimmered with lights, but her eyes focused on the distant galaxies beyond. Somewhere, she believed, the human soldier moved through the universe, leaving subtle signs and signals, his presence faint but undeniable. And somewhere, she knew, their destinies were still connected, linked by courage, memory, and the hope that had never died. The alien Queen's heart was filled with a quiet certainty. The years of absence had not weakened her connection to him. They had strengthened it. The human's influence guided her leadership, shaped her decisions, and inspired her actions. Now, with the possibility of his survival, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would follow the signs, no matter how small, no matter how difficult the path. She would find him, and she would ensure that the bond they had formed in the chaos of danger would never be broken. In that quiet moment, with the stars stretching endlessly above, the Queen whispered again, "I will find you. I will follow the signs, and I will never forget you." Her voice carried a determination that was calm but unyielding. She knew that hope, even fragile and uncertain, could guide her through the darkness. And with that hope, she felt closer to him than she had in years, as if the universe itself were helping her trace the path back to the human soldier who had changed her life forever. Years had passed since the human soldier had saved her, yet the alien Queen's thoughts remained filled with him. The memory of his calm courage, his steady presence, and his quiet strength continued to guide her every decision. The small signs she had noticed in recent months, faint signals, subtle patterns, and symbols hidden across the galaxy, had strengthened her hope that he might still exist. But even if she never saw him again, she realized that his influence had already left an unshakable mark on her life and her world. The palace was alive with activity. Ambassadors from distant planets arrived, seeking counsel and alliance. Her advisors discussed trade agreements, territorial disputes, and diplomatic strategies. Yet the Queen's attention often wandered not out of distraction but from reflection. She considered every choice carefully, asking herself what the human soldier would have done in her place. His courage, his calm reasoning, and his unshakable moral clarity had become a silent guide in her leadership. In private, she often returned to her small crystal, placed on a pedestal in a quiet chamber. It was a simple object, yet it held immense significance. She had first set it there to remember him 5 years ago, and now it symbolized hope, courage, and the enduring power of memory. She held it gently, whispering, "Even if you are gone, your lessons remain. You changed me, and I will never forget you." The Queen's people noticed changes in her. She was more confident, fair, and patient. Her decisions were firm yet compassionate, balancing justice with mercy. Leaders from neighboring worlds admired her wisdom and sought her counsel. Even in her absence from public spaces, her reputation for careful, thoughtful leadership spread across the galaxy. She realized that the human soldier's influence extended beyond her own heart. It had shaped her actions and, in turn, the lives of countless others. Despite her success and the respect she earned, the Queen still longed to know what had become of him. The faint signs she had been following, patterns, messages, and signals continued to appear. Sometimes she imagined he was testing her, ensuring she was strong and wise enough to lead her people, even without him by her side. The thought made her smile softly. Even in absence, he seemed to guide her, his courage echoing across the universe. One evening, as the twin moons of her planet rose in the sky, the Queen stood on the balcony of her private chambers. The city below shimmered with lights, but her eyes focused on the distant stars above. She imagined the human soldier traveling somewhere far away, unaware of the lasting impact he had made on her world. She whispered into the night, "I hope you are safe. I hope you are well. Wherever you are, know that you are remembered and you are honored." Her mind drifted back to the day he had saved her life. She remembered every detail, the calm confidence in his eyes, the precision of his movements, and the quiet courage that had protected her when all others had faltered. She realized that his bravery had not only preserved her life but had taught her how to live with strength, wisdom, and purpose. His actions had shown her that true courage was not just physical skill, but moral clarity, patience, and a steadfast heart. The Queen also reflected on her own growth. Before meeting him, she had relied heavily on her advisors and the rules of her world. She had never imagined that a human could teach her so much about leadership, bravery, and trust. Now, even in his absence, she felt empowered. She had become a queen who could act decisively, who could inspire her people, and who could navigate the complexities of interstellar politics with calm confidence. The human soldier's influence had become a part of her very being, shaping her thoughts, decisions, and actions in ways that no one else could. Despite the passage of time, the Queen's hope never faded. She continued to follow the signs he had left, however subtle. Each pattern she discovered, each faint signal she traced was a reminder that he might still be out there, alive and moving through the galaxy. She did not know if she would ever see him again, but the possibility filled her with a quiet determination. She was resolved to honor his courage by leading with wisdom and strength, no matter what challenges lay ahead. In the council chamber, she addressed her advisors and ambassadors, her voice calm, yet firm. "We have faced many challenges," she said, "and we will face many more. But we must act with courage, with patience, and with hope. Strength is not only in power, but in the choices we make and the lives we protect. We must lead with integrity for our people and for those who cannot speak for themselves." Her words carried weight. The advisors listened intently, inspired by her clarity and resolve. Though none of them had met the human soldier, they could see his influence in her calm leadership and unwavering moral compass. They understood that she had been shaped by someone extraordinary, even if they did not know the full story. Later that night, the Queen returned to her private chambers. She held the crystal in her hands, feeling the cool surface beneath her fingers. She whispered again, softly but with certainty, "You may be gone, but your courage lives on. You taught me what it means to be brave, to be patient, and to be strong. I carry your lessons with me every day." She realized that the bond they had formed in a moment of crisis could not be broken by distance or time. Even if she never saw him again, his memory would remain alive in her heart and in her actions. The human soldier had given her more than life. He had given her inspiration, guidance, and the knowledge that courage and kindness could leave a mark that time could not erase. As she gazed at the stars, the Queen allowed herself a small, quiet smile. Though the human soldier's fate was unknown, his legacy was clear. He had changed her life, shaped her leadership, and left an enduring mark on her world. She knew that she would continue to honor him, not only in memory but in every choice she made, in every life she touched, and in every act of courage and compassion. The Queen understood something profound. True bravery and kindness are never lost. They live on in those who remember, in those who act with integrity, and in those who continue to be inspired. The human soldier had shown her this truth, and it had transformed her forever. Even as the stars stretched endlessly above, the Queen whispered once more, her voice steady and certain, "I will remember you always. Your courage, your kindness, and your strength are part of me now, They will guide me, inspire me, and remain with me forever." In that quiet understanding, the alien queen found peace. Though he had disappeared years ago, the human soldier was still with her, in memory and inspiration and in the way she lived her life. His actions had shaped not only her destiny but the destiny of her people, and as long as she remembered him, his courage would never fade. The story ends not with reunion but with lasting influence. The human soldier may have vanished into the vastness of the galaxy, but the alien queen's memory of him remained unshakable. His legacy lived on through her leadership, her choices, and the strength of a bond formed in courage, trust, and honor. 5 years after he disappeared, she still remembered him, and that memory would continue to shape her world forever.